Sam 5, I'm hit multiple times. Said meds. Suspect down.
Detention Center State of Georgia Sean Diddy Combs, the man facing over 14 federal felony charges, was just found collapsed and unresponsive in his solitary confinement cell. The prison doctor confirmed death was instantaneous cardiac arrest. No signs of struggle, no blood and noise were recorded yet. What shook the entire system wasn't the fact that he died, it was how it happened. The surveillance camera monitoring the solitary cell block suddenly lost signal for exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. All backup camera data also suffered a so-called hardware malfunction. The 2 guards responsible for conducting wellness checks were recorded as leaving their posts at some time to handle an urgent administrative issue. The internal report clearly states no one saw Diddy for approximately 27 minutes prior to the discovery. In his hand, according to the investigation source, was a crumpled piece of paper completely blank except for a faint red ink symbol marked SO3 next to his body. A metal hook that did not match any standard issue items found in the cell. The electronic door locking system showed a local access override precisely at 3:58 a.m. but no one knows who entered with what key card or why no alarms were triggered. Even the vibration alarm, which is supposed to activate if someone collapses to the floor, never went off. Part 1. The moment this heart stopped. How did Diddy die? Metropolitan Federal Detention Center Solitary Block D Cell Number 21, the place where Sean Diddy Combs had been held in isolation for the past 18 days ever since his transfer from New York to Georgia for personal security reasons. This area is described as escape-proof, intrusion-proof, suicide-proof, with each cell containing only a single steel bed bolted to fuel, a low-angle blind spot camera, and an overhead light controlled by a 30 Newton off inspection cycle. Outside the cell, there are 2 layers of doors locked with the electronic magnetic systems and separate card scanners. No air vents, not sharp objects, no cloth strips, but it was exactly there at 5:12 a.m. according to the internal medical report that Sean Combs was found collapsed by the edge of the bed, eyes wide open, chest motionless, skin uncontracted, and pulse completely absent. What caused the forensic team to pause for 15 minutes before confirming the cause of death was how unnaturally calm his body appeared, too peaceful to be called suicide. The preliminary autopsy report, which was leaked just hours later, noted no bruising, no strangulation marks, and no general injuries. However, there was a very small puncture on his left wrist area with no medical use veins. During his detention, his blood contained a trace amount of etomethazine, a new generation sedative not commercially distributed and used only in government-level behavioral control programs not available to the public. The first question arose: how did this substance enter his body when all food, medication, and air were tightly controlled under federal-level protocols? The answer may have been in the cameras, but according to the IT department's later technical report, all 6 cameras in Cluster D lost unexplained power between 4:01 and 4:38 a.m. recording no footage at all, and there was no backup data because the storage system also suffered overwrite failure. At 5:05 a.m. a wellness officer arrived at the cell, knocked twice per procedure, received no response, but didn't open the door to check, assuming the inmate was asleep and had just been inspected in the previous round. 7 minutes later, a duty nurse was called to wake the unresponsive inmate for his scheduled morning blood pressure check, and she was the one who reported his death. In the recording of the emergency call, her panicked voice said, "I can't detect a pulse, he's not breathing, his eyes are wide like he's in shock, there's a faint chemical smell, I need a doctor immediately." A doctor arrived 3 minutes later and confirmed death on the spot. The body was sealed within 11 minutes, and what sent chills down everyone's spine was the folded quarter sheet of paper in Diddy's palm. No writing, no clear symbols, just air ink, stamped with a single dot and 3 characters, SO3. The entire security team responsible for monitoring Block D that day was suspended 24 hours after the incident, but no one was arrested, no one was charged, and to this moment, no report has identified any clear misconduct during patrol or equipment operation, even though the entire detention floor had been non-functional for over 30 minutes. An anonymous source from the Department of Justice stated this scenario is too perfectly aligned to be a coincidence and far too silent to be a suicide. According to the Federal Prison Security Classification System, Diddy's cell was a Class C unit, meaning hanging is impossible, physical suicide is impossible, and the door cannot be locked from the inside. The only way to die in this cell would be if someone came in from the outside quietly, quickly, and professionally enough to keep him from uttering a word, and exactly as stated in the final line of the internal medical report submitted to the Department of Justice. No signs of resistance, no sound, no prior alert. This was not an act of self-harm, this was a controlled act of harm executed within just enough time to kill, but not enough time to trace. As soon as the body was discovered, the entire solitary block was locked down within 9 minutes under red-level security protocol. However, first response personnel reported hearing no unusual noises beforehand, no footsteps, no calls, no impact sounds from Diddy's corridor, even though this area usually chose from a single door slam. Meanwhile, the overnight patrol log showed a blank stretch from 3:41 to 4:45 a.m., a time during which all guards reported no abnormal activity. One shift record handwritten by an employee named Brad and noted emergency schedule change inspecting door system on floors, which was believed to be the reason the entire team left Floor D for exactly 30 fatal minutes. When the FBI's rapid response team arrived at 7:19 a.m., they immediately requested backups of all corridor control data, key card logs, electronic access records, camera footage, and thermal sensor data. But by 9 a.m. only 2 out of 14 data files remained accessible, most notably the solitary unit's key card access log had been temporarily overwritten by an unidentified user account not registered in the system, marked with the user ID XCT91, which did not match any staff member at Metropolitan. A senior investigator described in the emergency report, if the system was overwritten without alert, either the operator intentionally disabled the alarm or the system had been pre-compromised. In either case, this wasn't a malfunction, it was a premeditated action. Those who had watched over Diddy in his final days confirmed that his demeanor was strangely calm. He showed no fear, made urgent requests for a lawyer as usual, and spent nearly all of his time writing handwriting into a 10-page yellow notebook. He had requested from the prison administration. A torn sheet from that notebook was found under the mattress in the corner where his back had rested. On it, a single line read, "I thought I had one more week to live." The handwriting was shaky, but legible, written in pencil, the stub hidden at Thebes' edge and wrapped in tissue. A common method for concealing writing tools in cells or hard objects are prohibited. Anyone familiar with prison procedures knows no one can self-administer a methazine without going through internal medical staff, no one can open a Class C door without a MasterCard, and no one simply dies by chance. While all cameras, hard drives, card readers, security systems, and on-duty personnel simultaneously experienced technical failure for exactly 30 minutes. The body was removed. An investigator discovered the one working hallway camera on Block D had captured a fast-moving shadow at 3:58 a.m. No uniform, no security tag, and no electronic sensor trigger left behind. That clip was sent to the FBI's high-resolution image analysis unit and marked as classified. Potential breach. That same morning, an emergency meeting was convened between representatives of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the Department of Justice, and the Department of Homeland Security. The meeting lasted over 3 hours, and the contents remained sealed. But only 1 hour after it ended, the official DOJ website posted a single line update: in custody, death under investigation. No further comment, no press were allowed, no reporters were permitted to ask questions, and the identities of all staff on duty that night have been sealed. Part to right before death. Who did he name? 24 hours before being found dead in his solitary confinement cells, Diddy Combs underwent a 4-hour interrogation inside the facility's internal interview room, overseen by 2 senior FBI investigators, a special federal prosecutor, and a representative from the Witness Protection Program. This interrogation was not publicly disclosed to his defense attorneys because under the Special Surveillance Act of 2017, a suspect believed to be at the center of a federally organized crime network be subjected to emergency questioning if there are signs that information is being erased, hidden, or transferred overseas. During those 4 hours, Diddy voluntarily gave testimony, an action described as entirely proactive, not coerced, and made without requesting any immunity. According to a leaked transcript from the office of the U.S. Attorney, the statement was not a confession, but a list of names, locations, and never-before-released video recordings along with detailed descriptions of the operational structure of a 12-year-long string of private parties involving directly or indirectly at least 3 entertainment moguls, 1 tech CEO, and a former congressman. Internal sources confirm that in the initial part of the interrogation, Diddy referenced also called whitelist a group of individuals who had been completely protected by financial, political, or media influence. He declared, "Under the curtain, they're the stage." According to him, this list had once been stored on a personal hard drive located in a rented apartment in Zurich, Switzerland, under the name of an assistant who vanished in 2022. When asked why, he was only revealing this now. Diddy replied, "Because they've started letting me die. I'm not dumb enough to go down without dragging someone with me." In the second phase of questioning, investigators asked him to verify a previously leaked video, specifically one submitted by a witness identified as CG, which was filmed in a Miami penthouse and appeared to show a Latino man in a baseball cap, believed to be Diddy speaking to a woman who appeared visibly disoriented. Diddy did not deny it. In fact, he confirmed, "She was brought there. I didn't invite her. I was just told to stand with her to make the image look legal. The person who gave that order is the one you mentioned yesterday." The CEO of this portion is redacted in the release transcript. When pressed on financial details, who funded the parties, who paid for guest flights from Europe, who managed media fallout when things went wrong, Diddy named an event management company in Dubai, a music studio in Los Angeles, and an investment fund with offices in Singapore. He claimed that these entities didn't know the whole picture, but they were part of the machine, and said he was once instructed to cover everything up front with personal funds, then to reimburse through a nameless company chain. Over the following 6 months, he gave the names of 2 individuals who managed those companies, both of whom are either dead or missing. One of them reportedly fell from the 27th floor of a hotel in Tokyo in 2021, declared a suicide due to depression, although hallway cameras that day suddenly lost signal for 15 minutes. The final part of the interrogation was what prompted the Department of Justice to call an emergency meeting that very same day when an investigator asked him, "Do you still have any evidence?" Diddy answered coldly with one sentence, "I don't keep anything, but the FBI is already keeping it for me without knowing it." He said one of his assistants had secretly uploaded an access code into the FBI's internal storage system, granting entry to a private cloud repository containing documents, invoices, journals, images, and videos that could potentially bring down at least 5 underground financial networks in the U.S. connected to the entertainment industry, cryptocurrency, and weapons trade. Diddy laughed as hesitant. No one in the room believed him, but when technicians checked the system after the session, they discovered a suspicious access code entered from an internal IP within the past 48 hours, matching a temporary OTP login to a high-security enterprise storage server located in Iceland, according to sources from the data analysis team at 10:47 p.m. Morally 6 hours before Diddy's death, the FBI successfully accessed one of 3 data folders, uncovering for video files labeled numerically 109. BC 200 AK 203 Pran 05 are these files, average 3 GB each, stored in high compression formats, and had original titles that had been renamed with meaningless character strings. One decoded clip approximately 11 minutes long allegedly captured red footage of a party attended by at least 6 celebrities, including an Oscar-winning director, a billion-dollar recording artist, and a senior executive from a major social media platform. A lot of details have since been sealed. An internal email was sent to investigators that same night instructing raise the security level to Tier 5, prohibit remote access, and block internal federal sharing until identities in the footage are verified. But Diddy never got the chance to reveal the rest, and even though the FBI managed to back up a portion of the evidence, No one knows for sure whether he disclosed everything or if what he said was only the tip of the iceberg. What's most notable is that the entire testimony by protocol was recorded in audio-video and written transcript and encrypted under a temporary format labeled deadlock for classification, used exclusively when a suspect is believed to be at risk of assassination. Before the investigation can list, the last time this format was activated was in 2005 during a financial espionage case involving individuals closely tied to foreign intelligence agency. The real question now is no longer whether Diddy talked, but who already knew that he did and decided he wouldn't live to say any more. Part 3: The prison's response. Negligence or complicity. If Diddy's death came as a surprise, then the response from the Metropolitan Detention Center's management was assailants far too deep to be considered serious. From the moment the body was discovered to the time an official report was submitted to the Office of the Director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, more than 3 hours had passed. An excessively long delay for a death in solitary confinement, especially for a high-profile inmate under elevated surveillance. According to internal policy, any unusual death must be reported immediately, within 30 minutes, accompanied by preliminary footage from the surveillance system, patrol logs, and sensor charts. However, in Diddy's case, none of these reports were filed on time. The officer on duty that day, Lieutenant Tarek Mani, did not record any irregularities in the official shift report, despite the fact that the entire Dell block lost power for nearly half an hour. When asked why the signal outage wasn't reported immediately, he replied briefly, "I assumed the IT team was doing routine checks." Mahoney's testimony falls apart when cross-referenced with the Central Control Room's incident log, which still recorded a red alert from Cluster D at 4:03 a.m. with the note "no response from thermal and motion sensors." A junior IT technician marked the status in progress, but there was no corresponding technical service request submitted from that area. Within 24 hours, a maintenance engineer explained every time the system crashes, a reboot command must be signed off by a floor manager. But that day, no one signed anything. Someone restarted the system quietly outside of protocol. And more concerning, to out of the 3 officers responsible for wellness checks left their posts between 3:50 and 4:45 a.m., precisely matching the window when the cameras failed. The corridor was empty and the death occurred. The reason for leaving their post, provided in their official statements, was assisting a colleague in handling a disruptive environment on floors. But when compared with medical records, patrol logs, and internal administrative reports for floor, there was no recorded incident of any disturbance that night. Every inmate in block testified that nothing unusual happened, no alarm sounds, no guard movement. The internal security incident, our EPO or TING system, marked floor as completely stable throughout the night. Also, that night, a transport vehicle driver was confirmed to have entered the facility yard at 3:40 a.m. to deliver food supplies to the prison kitchen, anonymously, given that food deliveries are strictly scheduled for 6:30 a.m. When questioned about the vehicle operations, staff confirmed the truck had no license plate, was fitted with a temporary code, and the entry permit was destroyed after the delivery. No one knows who approved the permit. No one can explain why the truck arrived 3 hours early, exactly during the system failure in the cell block. All sensor data, including door card readers, bed vibration sensors, and corridor lighting systems, stopped logging between 3:55 and 4:34 a.m. When the tech team attempted recovery, they found the data had been temporarily overwritten by a hidden script accessed from a MAC address that didn't match any in-house device. This means someone had infiltrated the system from inside using a real-time data override tool, which could only have been executed with administrator-level access, privileges granted only to the head of technical operations, the prison security director, or someone from the upper-level system network. A security analyst concluded in the report the incident strongly suggests the presence of an insider or a third party with escalated clearance, backed by higher authority. The next red flag was how the body was handled. Once the doctor confirmed death, the body should have been transferred to a local coroner's office for independent autopsy. However, leaked documents revealed that Diddy's body remained inside the prison for over 5 hours before an FBI vehicle retrieved it, citing lack of specialized transport, yet operational logs showed that two emergency vehicles were stationed in the parking lot and neither was activated. An internal source added that all on site photos of the scene were taken with a supervising officer's personal phone instead of the official forensic photography equipment mandated, and by the time the FBI requested all images, that phone had reportedly fallen into a toilet by accident. The only remaining photo was a blurry, poorly lit snapshot taken by a nurse, which still clearly showed a red circular ink mark and 3 faint characters SO3 on the palm of Diddy's left hand when federal investigators tried to question those involved. In that night's shift, 5 out of 11 staff members unexpectedly filed for unpaid leave or departmental transfers within 48 hours, citing psychological distress, one of them Supervising Officer McIntyre, behind a handwritten note that was later. Likiti didn't think they'd take it this far. I didn't think he would actually die. I was just doing what I was told. That note has been submitted to the Department of Justice's legal division, but none of those who left have faced criminal investigation. No one has been arrested, no searches have been conducted, no subpoenas have been issued, no one has been held accountable. On June 19th, the warden of Metropolitan Detention Center, Mr. Dale Whitmore, held a brief press conference lasting less than 6 minutes. Reading from a prepared statement, he said, "We express our deepest condolences over the death of inmate Shaw Combs. We're fully cooperating with the Department of Justice and the FBI. We have no further comments until the investigation results are released." When a reporter asked how a high surveillance inmate could die without knowing, he simply responded, "Sometimes systems fail." He then left the podium without answering any further questions, from concealing technical failures, delaying official reports, spinning body transfer, manipulating security data. The entirety of their response has led many in the investigative community to say this wasn't a death, this was a technical operation, and if it was executed inside a federal prison, it means someone inside enabled it, or the whole system was already bought. Part 4. Who wanted Diddy dead? If Diddy's death were a suicide, then all questions would revolve around personal motives and psychological factors, but when a string of technical data shows that the surveillance system was shut down at the exact moment the entire shift staff disappeared simultaneously, every camera suffered a complete malfunction, retrieval logs were deleted in reverse, and strange red ink marks were found on the corpse. This is no longer just a death, but a message, a deliberate ending, a planned execution, and someone stood to gain from it. The question is no longer, how did he do it? Who needed him gone before he could reveal everything on the very night he died? An FBI Special Task Force was urgently instructed to re-examine all statements from the past 3 days, particularly the interrogation tracks from June 16th, when Diddy began naming powerful individuals potently tied to illicit parties, secret recordings, and a large-scale international money laundering operation. According to a leaked memo from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, 3 names on the red-marked list stood out: a social media tech CEO, the executive of the world's largest music label, and a former U.S. senator who once served on the Senate Finance Committee. While Diddy didn't directly accuse any of them, their names appeared in his handwritten notes under the heading "Meetings that must not be exposed," with timestamps aligning with the emergence of anonymous lawsuits dating back to 2019. A high-ranking intelligence investigator who requested anonymity stated during an internal meeting Diddy was just a link in the chain. He didn't run the show, he was assigned a role, but he knew who gaveth orders, who controlled the funds, who handled the cleanup. Analysts believeth that Diddy's death allowed at least 3 interest groups to simultaneously escape the threat of exposure: the event organizers, the financial backers, and the media shielding providers. All 3 groups were previously linked to shell companies and rep offices located in offshore tax havens like the Cayman Islands, Cyprus, Malta, or the jurisdictions where extradition is nearly impossible without concrete criminal evidence. Among them, the most notable is Orion Gold Holdings, an entertainment firm that sponsored several international music events with Diddy as creative director, a company whose most recent financial filings list even Anonymous owners, all connected to investment funds originating in Liechtenstein and the British Virgin Islands. In his final testimony, Diddy mentioned a cryptic phrase, SO3, the cleanup crew. That's what I heard them called. I don't know who's really in charge. Initially dismissed as vague rambling, the statement took on new meaning when the label SO3 was found marked on his hand at the time of death, and several files on his personal server were stored in folders with that exact name. When the tech team recovered portions of the deleted data, they discovered at least 8 emails sent between 2018 and 2023, with subject lines containing SO3 accompanied by attachments listing guest names or post-event payment budgets. Some even included private jet itineraries, non-disclosure agreements, and requests to erase hotel logs, indicating that S3 wasn't merely a code, but a dedicated operation framework for activities meant to remain hidden. Analysts have theorized that S3 could be a covert crisis management group hired to silence, erase, or eliminate those who knew too much. In the history of high-level criminal investigations involving politics, finance, and media, there has never been a case where all tech systems were compromised simultaneously. Staff vanished in unison, and a corpse bore a symbol, as if the perpetrator wasn't trying to conceal the act, but to send a clear warning. A senior FBI official admitted in an internal document SO3 may be a code name or an actual operating group. Either way, it has access tools and the capability to bypass even federal-level security protocols. One person believed capable of orchestrating such an act is Diddy's shadow backer of the past 2 decades, a figure never seen in the press, but listed in behind-scenes financial agreements of at least 4 receivables to non-government financial organizations and the lead investor band, one major pharmaceutical firm. In 2021, this individual was investigated for alleged stock manipulation, but escaped indictment due to insufficient evidence. According to an email extracted from Diddy's secondary account, this person once wrote, "I can lift you up, but I can also keep your mouth shut permanently." That wasn't a threat, that was a declaration of rank between someone who knows he can never be dragged down. And Simeon, who had just begun to speak the link between Diddy and political figures who appeared at exclusive artist fundraisers, cannot be overlooked. A leaked 2016 guest list reveals that at least 2 U.S. senators, 1 state governor, and a member of the National Security Advisory Council were present at private parties hosted under Diddy's name. Their identities were never released to the media. Photos were tightly controlled, and all event planning companies operated under temporary legal entities, registered and then dissolved in under 2 months. Those who worked at these events were required to sign non-disclosure agreements, and most were never seen again in the commercial event industry. So, who had the motive to make Diddy disappear? Who feared that his next statement would implicate levels of power the public must never see? Was it an internal agency, a covert media cabal, or simply a group of individuals who understood that the price of truth was to hide, to pay with freedom? When the media asked questions, no one answered. When the public demanded justice, no one responded. And as Diddy lay there lifeless, growing colder with each hour, only one message remained: never speak while there are still names left unspoken. Part 5: Buried Files. The unlocked date of packages. When the FBI conducted its first search of Diddy's rented apartment in Los Angeles, they didn't find much new information. There were only a few personal hard drives, some scattered financial documents, and an empty fireproof safe, as if everything had already been cleared out. But what was unusual was that an IT staff member on the search team discovered a small device roughly the size of 3 fingers, hidden behind the central air conditioning unit, camouflaged beneath dust and ductwork. It was a mini NAS network-attached storage device capable of remote access, connected to a server located in Reykjavik, Iceland. Within 24 hours, the FBI determined that this device functioned. An electronic key, not containing data itself, but unlocking access to a series of encrypted folders buried deep within an offshore server, which was part of a decentralized security platform once used by underground hackers to evade Interpol surveillance. 3 folders were marked with 3 letter codes and KTP93V to in each folder held dozens of data files compressed with military-grade encryption. When the FBI's elite decryption team began to access them, they immediately realized the entire data set was protected by dual-layer AES 256-bit encryption, requiring both a hard word-again and a dynamic passcode. A small portion of the NKT folder was successfully decrypted, and the initial result caused the entire investigative team to halt for nearly 5 hours at a tailed ledger listing 170 financial transactions, spanning from 2013 to the end of 2022, including recipients' names, transfer codes, destination countries, and clearly stated purposes, such as private event funding, media sanitization, special personal insurance, foreign guest management expenses, and internal resolution costs. Among those expenses, at least 17 transactions originated from companies that had either been dissolved or vanished from legal records within 90 days after the transfers. Notably, one transaction worth $1 for $4 million was sent to a media company based in Manhattan. Just 4 days before, an investigative journalist from Rolling Stone magazine unexpectedly resigned, canceled all upcoming articles related to the nightlife industry, and announced an indefinite personal Levethi data. Also revealed that the IP addresses accessing these files over the past 6 months came from London, Tel Aviv, Dubai, and Miami, a global network that could not possibly be operated by Diddy alone. The second folder, code P93, has yet to be fully unlocked, but one of its files was reformatted to reveal its title: VIP Camera Vault, a file over 84 GB in size stored as an internal surveillance video system. It contained numerous subfolders labeled by date and event location. A few preview images were extracted and are being heavily safeguarded, but internal sources confirm there are video segments featuring not only Diddy, but also individuals the public would never imagine being present. Video, 2 minutes and 37 seconds long, was extracted for testing and shows a luxury hotel suite with at least 4 individuals: a white male in a suit, a woman resembling a famous singer, a person dressed as security staff, and a black man identified as Diddy's longtime assistant. The video includes audio and was recorded by a mini camera embedded in a ceiling light. None of the individuals appear to notice the lens, indicating the system had been covertly installed, operated professionally, and active 4 years without detection. A data analyst told CBS News, "This is not a personal hard drive. This is a deliberately constructed vault, not for protection, but for leverage. And now that its owner is dead, the biggest question is, who has the right to open it?" The question became even more serious when the FBI confirmed that one of the encryption keys needed to access the rest of the V2 folder was embedded in Diddy's personal SIM card, which had been removed and gone missing shortly after his body was first examined. According to the overnight nurse's testimony, Diddy's phone was sealed and handed over to the facility's internal manager, but by the time the FBI took custody, the SIM card was gone, and the footage of the sealing process was part of the segment that had lost signal. The FBI had to collaborate with military-grade decryption units and coordinate with the Defense Intelligence Agency to attempt manual coding, a process experts predict could take months or even years without the original device or the codes. Some investigators worrying that Diddy's death may have taken the final password to the grave, and if the yet unappended files contained verifiable identities of those behind the entire network, we may be facing the permanent burial of the truth. A perfect burial, a perfect death, a perfect code loss. In a restricted internal report, a veteran investigator wrote a chilling note: Diddy's death didn't end the investigation, it simply shifted it from a living subject to dead files. But the deeper question remains, will these files ever be released? Will anyone have the courage to unlock the full truth, even if it shakes the pillars of media, finance, music, and politics all at once? And if no one can, or no one is allowed to, then do we still dare? Calthus an investigation, or merely a discreet funeral rite for the truth? He died in a room with no way out, no scream, no sign of struggle, no pulse, a death row inmate, without a sentence, an execution, without a perpetrator, a death so thoroughly cleaned up that the entire industry had to pretend it had never heard his name. But it was that very silence that screamed the loudest for those who are still awake enough to hear it, because if someone who was once a symbol of pop culture, who once stepped into The Oval Office, who once ran a media empire, who once challenged the financial system, could vanish in silence like that. Then anyone could be swallowed whole without leaving a single headline behind, and if the still encrypted files are buried forever beneath layers of code, if no one dares to speak of them, if no truth is ever allowed to be uttered, then this world no longer runs on truth, but only on what is allowed to be called the truth. Diddy's death didn't close the investigation, it opened a door into a system of manipulation, into power, with no face, into a structure that operates on fear and compromise, and if someone somewhere still holds the final key to unlocking the V to unfolder, then the biggest earthquake hasn't happened yet. Do you believe he took his own life, or do you think someone was behind it? Are you ready to know the whole truth, even if it shatters the names you once idolized? Leave a comment, share this video if you believe justice should not end in silence, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any updates. Becos, this story ain't over.